Hello, and welcome to the League Lounge. I'm happy to be back. It's been a while. And hi, Thomas. Thomas haven't been
Hello.
in the room
Hi.
with us today. How
Yes.
you been, Thomas? Since
Not bad. Not bad. Been
not
it's
bad.
been it's been pretty good. You?
Pretty good, busy. Well, last time I was supposed to do a League Lounge, I got very sick, and I feel like I've been sick since.
Oh,
But now I've finally the winter diseases are hopefully over for me, but we'll see. You never know. I
yeah.
would like to apologize to all of our fans and listeners and chat that we're a little late because of tech issues on my end. Hopefully, internet won't die on me again, but if it does, then Thomas, you'll just have to improvise.
Yeah.
um I so today we're gonna discuss Alien. The Kickstarter has been announced for the uh Evolved Edition. So I before I start, I figured, if for those of you who don't know what Alien RPG is, Thomas, if you could just give us brief little elevator pitch and why the new Evolved Edition is what are things that we can look forward to for those of us who played the old game as well.
Yeah. I mean, we announced this a while back, and it's the Kickstarter is running. We have another week to go. It ends next Thursday, and yeah, it's a bunch of things. I mean, if you can first check the Kickstarter page, but there is an updated, evolved rulebook. There is the new cinematic adventure Rapture Protocol. There is a new starter set, and there is a miniature set, and yeah, a bunch of other things. So it's really a refinement of the original game with a bunch of new stuff as well.
Very, very, very cool. And yeah, so chat questions, thoughts. We have here from Megan Nope. I'm gonna just immediately jump in. Could you talk a little bit about the solo play
Yeah,
and how that's gonna work?
yeah, that's one of the new additions. It will actually be in the core rulebook. It's written by Sean Tompkin and Matt Click, who are sort of known to be the best of the best of solo modes. They've done a few for some of our other RPGs, and now they have had their go at the Last Survivor game mode for the Alien RPG. So basically, the way they designed solo modes, and this one is no exception, is that it's a bunch of very cool tools and tables and guides, and it sort of gives you everything you need to create your own story using the Alien RPG. So it really uses the rest of the book as well, but it has all of those tools that can, in a sense, replace the game mother and let you create your own story. It's really cool. There is actually a long post, or fairly long post, from Sean and Matt up on the Kickstarter. I think we posted it yesterday, a summary where they basically just, explain exactly how this works in more detail. So if you didn't check out that update, I think that's a great place to start.
Okay. But so basically with the solo game, I've only dabbled in the Vaesen solo game mode so far, but is it that you're playing like you're writing a journal with yourself, or like how do you use dice with it? Like is it that kind of stuff, or is that all explained in this doc?
I think you can get everything in that update, but yeah, pretty much. You use the normal rules. You play out encounters, combat, stealth, everything. So you get all of that, but it's you get prompts using the tables and tools in the solo mode section instead of having a game mother explain it for you or tell you what to do or what to roll for and so on. One thing that we should always clarify, I think it goes for pretty much all of the solo modes that we have. You can't really play like existing adventures with the solo mode. It doesn't really
Right.
do that. So it's more of its own separate thing, because the story that you create for yourself will be a unique story that you create in the solo mode. So you can't really apply the solo system to a pre-existing adventure. It doesn't really work that way. So that might be good to know for the solo mode, just so that there is no confusion.
One last question from me regarding solo mode. What if you die as a solo player? Like, is it?
Well, yeah, I guess that can happen. Yeah, then the adventure, ends. But yeah, there is a clever way how that works with countdowns and danger levels escalating and so on. So it's really built in a really smart way to
Oh,
avoid
cool.
have a dramatic progression that will mean that you probably won't face the most deadly xenomorph like the first thing that happens. It sort of builds up, and that it's pretty clever how that's designed.
Right. We have some questions about the minis and the mini sets. We have here from Luke and Second Dynasty. Well, I'll start with Luke's question that also talked a little bit about solo support, but we just talked about that. But will we get more Xeno minis for skirmish play? And will virtual tabletop support the skirmish mode? Will virtual tabletop support solo mode?
Yeah. More solo adventures. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think the system there is pretty robust as it is. So that's really what you need to play solo. We'll see. Maybe we can do more solo stuff for Alien down the line. I mean, this is what we do for this particular campaign. But yeah, we'll never know. Xeno minis for skirmish play. Yeah, that is something we'd definitely like to do for sure. I mean, the miniatures pack that we have now will have a number of Xenos. I believe 2 big ones and 2 small ones, and then there is another one in the starter set. So that's a few of them for sure. It's not a huge amount, and that the reason for that is that we want to tie in the miniature sets with the cinematic adventures. So basically, you'll have more like human minis than Xenos, and that's because it's designed to be used with Rapture Protocol primarily. Right. So you get like miniatures for the main characters there, and for the Xenos you might need, no spoilers, but anyway, so that's why it looks that way. But the idea is also that you can use these miniatures to play skirmish games and other things, and then of course if you want like a huge swarm of Xenos, you might have to find a few extras from somewhere else, or get a few of these sets. So yeah, the initial set doesn't have that many, but then the plan is to have more of these miniature sets as we go along. So probably for the next cinematic adventure, which is already the sort of design has started. That will have more Xenos. So if you get that too, you basically build a larger collection of miniatures that you can use for the adventures or for skirmish games as well.
That's really, really cool. So it can become like a collectible, like people will start collecting these. All right, cool. So can you just briefly explain skirmish play, just in case not everyone is up with the
lingo? Sure. I mean, that's a way to play. That's sort of the way we just had some fun with it. We actually tried to play the RPG skirmish style, since it already has these maps, and we wanted to develop the maps to work even better with like the tokens for characters and things like that, and the expanded stealth mode. So basically moving these tokens around on the map and even miniatures. And that can be a game in itself, and that's what we mean by a skirmish game. It's basically you don't really play a full RPG. It's more of a combat game where you move minis on the map, and you have the fighting or sneaking around, but it's more of a miniatures war game than a role-playing game. But it still uses. So that's one of the stretch goals that we had, that's unlocked, is to have a rules booklet that lets you play skirmish games if you want to. You can basically just throw up the map and some miniatures and use those rules and just have a fun little tabletop skirmish game going on instead of a full RPG. It doesn't replace the RPG. It's just another fun way to engage with these miniatures and these maps and these things. So that's
would it be possible to combine, like now we have role-playing session and now we're going to jump into the combat session?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can play the RPG adventures. I mean, the combat and the stealth section sequences of the adventures, you can use those miniatures and those maps. That's pretty much the idea. And then that is, in a sense, skirmish-like if you want to. And you can also do this on a virtual tabletop, because those maps will work really well on the VTT. So you can basically use those. It won't be actual miniatures on the VTT, but it will be the tokens. And that is also, so it really is part of the role-playing experience also. At least it can be if you wanted to. You can definitely play the game more theater of mind if you want as well, and just sort of hand wave these things. But there are tools available to play it more sort of combat map style,
Right.
For sure.
Last time we spoke about Alien, I think this is right when you announced the Evolved Edition, and there was some drama. People were not super happy about a new edition so close to the release, but then you explain it's actually been like 8 or 10 years since the last one. But I remember you saying that you couldn't spoil much about the cinematic adventures, and because there's so many. Obviously there's a bunch of new development in the Alien world, like Romulus came out this summer, and then we have a new series coming out. But Rapture Protocol, I want to talk a little bit about that. Is it inspired by any of the movies? And can you, now that there are more things out there, like what can you, how have you collaborated with the Alien cinema movie makers, basically, or have you at all?
Well, for Rapture Protocol, what we wanted to do and what we've been trying is that we felt that even though it's a little bit back to basics, I think if there is any film that is the biggest inspiration, is actually the first one. Also Romulus, as it happened. I mean, we designed Rapture Protocol separately from Alien Romulus. We didn't have any prior knowledge or insight on exactly what was going to happen in that film. But as it happened, it has sort of that same feel of going a little bit back to basics. I mean, I think the Draconis saga, the first 3 cinematics that we did, are really cool and tells a great story. It's a great arc, but it gets really big. The stakes are very high. The scope is very big, which can be cool, but we felt that it's time to kind of draw the cinematic back to its core experience, and that meant like a smaller area, a more smaller group of people in danger in an isolated environment, and also to actually use the tools that we had, the stealth mode and the maps, to really bring out the atmosphere of being in this place hunted by someone, and then a couple of twists on top of that. So yeah, in terms of the films, I think the first one is the biggest inspiration. But yeah, also Alien Romulus has a similar feel, I think.
Right, but I feel like Alien Romulus also was heavily inspired by the first movie too, right? Not to spoil either of them, but cool. But moving then a little bit to Colonial Marines, that I felt like it was more inspired by the second Aliens, right? Do you, let's see here, so you're saying Rapture Protocol is more based on the Alien movie, and that's so you're going a little bit mainly. Cool. Yeah. So but can you talk a little bit about where it ends up in the chronological order of things?
I think I can without spoiling. The Rapture Protocol is set, I believe, in 2177.
That year.
So that means 2 years before Aliens. So it's still sort of in the same area. I think the original now date of the RPG is in the 2180s. And this is so that's just slightly after Aliens and Alien 3. This adventure is set just before that. And that's also part of going back to basics, because after Aliens, the kind of word gets out, and we wanted an environment where this is still the xenomorph threat. It's still largely unknown. So that's why we actually backed up the timeline a little bit to before Aliens.
All right, so let's move on to a little bit like nitty-gritty questions. Specifically, how does the new ammo supply rule work, and a little bit how it's different from previous version?
Oh, sure. That's one of the things that we're changing, and there's a bunch of small changes to the rules and a few bigger ones. The expanded stealth mode is a bigger change, and a couple of other ones. Ammo supply is actually, well, I don't know if it's big change or not, but it's what we wanted to do is that we felt that in the first edition, you basically don't really worry about ammo at all. And that I guess works. But we felt we kind of missed the opportunity because in the films, especially the second one, you have those pulse rifle ammo counters counting down and the sentry guns counting down. So that's sort of a very cool, scene or trope from the films that we felt that we actually kind of wanted to get into the game as well. So it's we have the ammo that were a supply meter or in the starter set you can actually kind of use to check the amount of ammo or some other supply that is dwindling that you have to track in the game. And the way it works is that you basically use the rules for consumables, which were a version of it were in the first edition as well. So when you fire your weapon in combat or something, you make a supply roll to see if the ammo level goes down or not. And that's in the short of it, that's how it works. And you track that on your character sheet or with that supply meter. Supply dial, you kind of just turn it and then see it go down. So you won't really know. There's an element of chances. You might be, hunted by Xenos or something else. You don't know exactly how many, bullets you'll be shooting. Right. So there is an element of chance there where the ammo can run out at the worst possible moment. That's entirely possible, and that's sort of the thing we wanted to capture with this change in the rules.
And here's another question for those who are old fans of the franchise and game. If you already own the previous books like Colonial Marines and Building Better Worlds, is there something specific that has changed, or like they, I guess, different enough to go on the new Kickstarter? But also, how are they compatible? Asks Justin.
Those books, we are adding them. They're available as add-ons in the Kickstarter. Also in, I think, the biggest bundle, they're also included. We are updating the core rulebook more and the starter set. They're they're still the same game at their core, but they're fairly heavily updated. Those campaign books, Colonial Marines Operations Manual and Building Better Worlds, the changes are smaller. Basically, it's a matter of updating some stats for weapons and vehicles and maybe a few talents. So minor tweaks. So content-wise, the changes are not huge. And the reason we're still updating the graphic design, since we needed to reprint those books anyways. We felt it was a good opportunity, but the changes are fairly small. So it all depends on what you want. If you want the latest, definitely, why not get the new editions as well? But I think it's fair to make it clear that the content is 98% the same, even though it looks slightly different and presented in a little bit different way. But those books we're primarily including because they are coming in a new edition, since we need to reprint them anyways. We felt it was a good time to update the graphic design and make those small tweaks to update them to Evolved Edition. But it's content-wise, it's largely the same books.
Oh, very nice. And if you want to upgrade the rulebook to the collector's version after the campaign is over, how does that work? Asks.
Yeah, this is something that we got a bunch of questions about, and we looked into it, and it will be possible in the Pledge Manager. It can't be done in the Kickstarter itself. Of course, there are rewards bundles where the collector's edition is available or included, and there's even one specific reward that is the collector's edition of the book only, so you can definitely get it. But if you have a bundle that includes that standard, the normal edition, but you want to upgrade it, that will be possible to do in the Pledge Manager after the campaign is over. That if you want to add those funds already to help unlock stretch goals, you can actually do that in the Kickstarter. Then you just have to add that amount manually to your pledge, and then that'll show up as credit in the pledge manager. It's explained, I think, in an update a few days ago, so you can have a look there if you want to double check and see how it's done. But basically that's how it's done. And simple answer is you can do it in the pledge manager after the Kickstarter ends.
Okay, very nice. Just quickly pivoting back to the armor, you talked about the armor levels for vehicles, but will there be characters and creatures that also have new armor updates?
Yeah, armor is another thing that we've changed a bit from the first edition. The first edition had fairly, let's say, abstract armor rules that work similarly to some of our other Year Zero games. And I think that works well in most situations. Basically, then armor was a dice roll. So if you got lucky, you'd be protected. If you were unlucky, you were not. That works fine for most situations in like more low tech environments where the characters don't have a lot of gear, a lot of equipment and vehicles and things. But we felt it didn't quite work in situations like more of a colonial marine situation, like Aliens, where you actually have armored vehicles and heavy weaponry and things, and more of like a military environment. Then it didn't really work because you could potentially, if you got lucky, you could like punch through a tank. I mean, and even though that was unlikely, it still felt like we needed something a bit more, I'm not sure about the word realistic, but anyway, something that produced that avoided some of those more unlikely results where you actually needed to have a specific level of heavy weapons to destroy a tank. I mean, some of that sense of realism, I guess, we wanted to get in there. So that's why we reworked the armor rules. And the armor rules are the same now so the changes apply to individual characters also. So the simple change is basically that instead of a roll, armor now has like set levels. So that in a sense it's actually simpler, but it has some more tweaks to it. But so that's to allow for a more sort of realistic handling of like heavy hardware, military weaponry, and armor and things like that.
Very cool. We're getting so many great questions, and I'm running through them. I'm seeing here if there's anything we haven't really touched on yet. So let's actually pivot into the art. I know Johan Norris has been contributing to the book. Johan is famous from Mörkborg and other titles with Free League. But what can you say about the art and what we'll see in the art book? So there's an art book being released as well?
Yeah, that is, we're doing a digital art book for as a stretch goal. So that we're doing. And that's basically an art. It's a nice thing to have because the art is great. Mostly it's by Martin Griep, who's done amazing art, but also some others. So we're combining all of that from all of the books into a PDF art book. So you can use that, just to look at it, but also as a background, like you can do background things for your game or for your screen or whatever you like using, because you won't have like any text or anything on top of it. So that's the art book. But yeah, you're right. Also, Johan Norris is doing some additional art, and primarily he's doing the graphic design for the new edition. That's his main job, but also he's done a few like very cool additional art pieces that sort of mix it up and make it fresh.
Here's a juicy one for you. It's about proofreading feedback from users who get early access, making sure we avoid another instance like the pilot from the original release. I don't know this beef, so I would love to know what that's about. But yeah, will you be taking proof? You always take feedback, I know that, but
we do, yeah. So in the first edition we didn't have a Kickstarter, so it was more difficult. I think we had a brief, but that was a long time ago. I think we had like an alpha PDF at that time as well, but that was not the whole book, I think. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, this time we will share the PDF once it's done and approved. We're actually in pretty good shape. There are some stretch goals that were unlocked during the campaign, so we are still not fully done with the core rulebook, but fairly well along. So we're in a position where we will, I hope, like around the time the campaign ends, hopefully be able to share it with our licensor. So of course they will need to have a look at it, and if they have feedback, that's just normal part of any licensed property. So that's how it works. But if everything goes well, we hope to be able to share the PDFs with backers in a couple of weeks after the Kickstarter ends, and then we'll definitely take your feedback. I mean, hopefully it won't be that many errors and things, since we based this obviously on the first edition. But there is there is new text, quite a bit of it. In the new book, there's a new campaign area. There is a section about Jackson Star. There's a Tartarus sector. There's new rules. So definitely backers will get a chance to dig through that and hopefully spot any errors that we might have missed.
Yeah. Oh, we have Wayland Yutani in chat. They're watching us work.
All right.
So let's see here. We have this one is interesting. Have there been any new or additional rules regarding moral dilemmas?
Good question. I mean, that is definitely part of the game. I think especially you have those personal agendas in you have it in cinematic and campaign play, but in cinematics, though, the personal agendas are really key to the game as well, as every character will have their own agenda. You won't really be sure what everyone is actually out to do, and that is usually revealed in the third act of each cinematic. It's kind of when everything is resolved, and that is, I wouldn't say there are any new rules for it exactly. It's still a very important part of the game, but it's not a part that we have changed. But definitely it's a key thing. I mean, in Rapture Protocol, that is a new cinematic we're doing, and also the reworked version of Hope's Last Day, which is included in the new starter set. That is also, we also sort of looked over and tweaked. And now Hope's Last Day, which was in the original core rule book, is expanded, and it's now a full 3-act adventure. So there's more personal agendas and things moving in that area, in that adventure. But we haven't changed the rules for it specifically.
I have, this is an interesting, for those of us who are short on time, will you plan on creating an online character NPC world generator to speed up the process of game creating? I'm assuming this could also be helpful for solo play. Killyard.
Right. I mean, I think that there is a lot of things. I mean, in terms of character creation, world creation, there is a new, that was a stretch goal, life path system, which is really cool, where you can basically roll up your character randomly, and not just the numbers, but actually you get a full backstory, which is nice. And it's a different, alternative way to create your character. And then of course there is in the campaign section, there's ways to roll up entire worlds and planets and systems, and then missions and everything. I mean, we don't. I mean, in the VTTs there can be some tools for automating that, I believe, but generally we're not. I think a general principle at Free League is that we are, at least we believe, we're pretty decent at creating tabletop RPGs. We're not programmers, so if we better work with partners or someone who knows their way around, programming and things like that. So we're not planning on doing anything like that on our own at the moment, like a separate online generator or something. It's not really what we do. But in terms of supporting tools like that on VTTs, definitely.
And another question regarding those of us who are short on time, will there be any cheat sheets reference to help those of us who have the old stuff and now the Evolved Rules edition, like to see what has changed? Or is it just such a huge upgrade that it's gonna be better to just get the new book?
We will. I mean, we've mentioned this before. I think that we'll have like a PDF for anyone. I mean, if you want to play the new adventures with the first edition rulebook, there's going to be a PDF that kind of lists the main rules changes. It won't have all of the new content. It won't have Jackson Star and Tartarus Sector and life paths and those sort of completely new things. They won't be in there, but just sort of the rules changes. They will be on that PDF, which will be free. So that will be there. And then the other way around, the new core rulebook will have an appendix at the end that explains if you have first edition adventures, you want to use the new rules, how do you update the older content to the new core rulebook? So that will be there for if you want to convert in the sort of other direction. I mean, I think they're asking here about addendums or cheat sheets for Colonial Marines and Building Better Worlds. If there will be like addendums or cheat sheets for that, I guess we could do that. The changes, like I mentioned, are small. They're basically some numbers in terms of NPC stats and some vehicle stats, and that's pretty much the only changes we're talking about.
Yeah, and you said previous in the stream that it's the they will be involved in a set as well for the Kickstarter, the Colonial Marines and Building, if you would like to get the whole bundle with all the stuff. So how long do you have left, Thomas? Because we have more questions for you.
Yeah, and we can do a few more.
Okay, so how detailed will the new life paths be? Are they just fluff, or will they affect the character's stats and talents?
It's both. I mean, it's these rules were written by Dave Seamark, who's been contributing to the Alien RPG line since the early beginnings. And the way he designed it is basically you'll roll up like where you're from, your origins, and your career. You choose a career, you go into that. So you really play your life step by step, and it's written. You'll get like a little bit of story, a little bit of snippets of events that what happened as when you were growing up, and where did you end up. And there are some pretty dramatic events that can befall your character even before play, and all of those events and everything that you play will give you like another skill point here and an attribute point there. So basically you'll build up your story and your stats together.
Like leveling up in RPG.
Yeah, pretty much. So
if you survive.
Yeah, so you get fluff and as well as stats and talents. I don't think you can die in character generation in this one. That's known, that's some classic. I think Traveler had that in the classic life path system where you can actually get killed before the game started. I don't think you can actually do that here, but we figured this. The game is deadly enough as it is. So let's.
I don't think I've survived any Alien game I played, even the ones that were supposed to be chill. Which is speaking of more like these, like you were obviously expanding in the world of Alien. So are there plans for a corporate book? I think that's a very interesting question because, as far as I know, it's mostly being on a spaceship and dying in a horrible way.
Yeah, I mean, corporate would be nice. I mean, we are also working on. It's not part of this Kickstarter, but we've been talking for a long time about doing a Space Truckers campaign book. I mean, we have the Colonial Marines book. We have the Building Better Worlds, which is about colonists and explorers. So we'd like to do one for Space Truckers, which is like the third campaign frame. And that book could potentially be, I mean, you could imagine having a separate corporations book, but also Space Truckers and corporations kind of go together, because who do you work for if you're a space trucker? Well, a corporation primarily. So that will probably be more about the corporations in there. So we'll just have to, get back to you on that one when we know more and are further along. We are working on that book, but it's still early days for it, so it's not part of this Kickstarter, obviously.
Here's a question from I did not plant this video, but will there be any tutorial videos like the extremely good Dragonbane video?
Yeah, those are
which
really
ones?
good. Yeah, which ones are the No, I think that's a nice idea. I think we should do that.
Yeah, I just need to figure out how to not die immediately. I will find a way to die in character creation. So let's do one. Oh yeah, this is one. I mean, we've already talked about how deadly Alien universe is deadly, and it's kind of, in my opinion, part of the game. Do you have plans to provide more material to run campaigns. Oh yeah, you just talked about the corporation shady dealings but is there a way to, I guess,
I mean,
live on a spaceship without, like, is there a way to be a normal person in
pretty much. I mean, I think that's what we have the campaign play. I mean, we have the cinematic mode and the campaign mode of the game. And campaign play is designed. The idea is that you don't run into a xenomorph all the time, because that would just be weird and you would die. So it would also be a very short campaign. So instead, campaign play, well, xenomorphs can play a role. They're not everywhere, and they might be quite rare. So campaign play is something that we have expanded in the core rulebook. There was a section, a fairly meaty one in the original rulebook, but it's expanded by Paul Elliott, who did the initial work, so that you can basically have more tools to create missions and jobs of different kinds. You can be a space trucker, you can be a colonial marine, you can be a colonist, and you get all of those. And there is a whole campaign setting is in the core rulebook, also written by Dave Seamark. It's called Tartarus Sector. So it's what we did is one of the sectors on the big star map is called Tartarus Sector. It's described briefly in the original core rulebook. We kind of zoomed in on that. So now you get like a deeper description of all of the systems in this sector, what's going on, what the different corporations and governments are doing in this sector, lots of adventure hooks and things. So that's really designed to give you a lot to work with in a sort of, so you don't have to have the entire huge star map, but instead a little bit limited and defined area to play around with, which I think will work really great for a campaign. So that's sort of the idea. And then you can do all of these things like the question mentions here, like corporations, industrial espionage. You can do all kinds of things that because this universe is rich and has a lot of things going on beyond just running from xenomorphs, even though that can be a lot of fun too.
What are some limitations working with like an established world like this? Would you say, like, working with a licensed product like Alien, and what are the benefits as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's both. I mean, I think primarily for me, and I think for us, all of the team, is that it's just a dream and so much fun to play around in this universe that I think is amazing. So I think that is the biggest benefit. Just be allowed to be in this world is fantastic, because it's such a cool universe, and I can't think of a cooler sci-fi. I mean, it's just amazing to do that, and there is so much to draw from. There is and it's a lot of fun to play. When playing at the table, you can kind of draw on all of those scenes that you've seen, and it's just a lot of fun. Of course, there are some limits as well. I mean, in the sense that everything we do needs to be, checked and approved by 20th Century Studios, who's our licensor, and that's just the way licensing works. And I think that's a good thing, because if they didn't do that, then the universe could, potentially, spiral out in any direction. I mean, I think it's good that there is like a central custodian keeping the universe together, because we're not the only one doing things in the universe. There's like the films, obviously, but also video games and comics and novels and all kinds of things. I think it's that's part of the deal, and also a good thing that there is someone holding it all together.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think I think that makes a lot of sense. I remember Nils, your co-founder of Free League, he mentioned briefly, I think at a talk back, that it was Alien and Blade Runner was one of his top IPs that he wanted to make something with. And then there was one that he didn't mention, and I'm assuming because it might be in the works. We'll see what happens with that. But one last question for you, Thomas. And that is, if you could pick one Alien version, which one would you want to be, and why is it in Praetorian? But you can also choose the Xeno T-Rex.
Yeah, or maybe I'll be a face hugger and just go.
Oh God!
Grab someone. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's hard to pick a favorite version. To be, I'm not sure I would like to be a Xeno, but yeah, Praetorian maybe. Yeah, maybe just a big old.
Which one is the Praetorian? I don't remember what the name is.
It's a pretty big one. It's one of the larger.
The main one, the one with
no, those are. Well, they have a bunch of different names,
Oh.
but yeah, I think the ones that are but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to pick one to be. I never really approached it that way. I'd probably rather run from them than be one. But yeah.
Have you seen all the movies? Like, are you up to date with all the movies?
Yeah, but I don't think we should spoil things here,
No, no,
maybe,
no, no.
or
Okay.
no.
No, I'm not gonna. No, I was like, it's just one scene that I will just say a C-section is all I'm saying on that, and it's
Ah,
like the most
right. Yeah.
haunting thing
No.
I've ever
Yeah.
seen in my
Yes.
life.
I know. Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
the alien I would play.
All right.
Anyway, I think that concludes our talk today. Once again, sorry we're a little late, but I think we made up for it. At least Thomas did by being so generous with the questions. And thank you, chat, for popping in.
Yeah.
Make
Great.
sure you continue to send, feedback and thoughts and everything to Thomas. I know he loves it, and
Oh yeah.
it will be a wonderful time. The Kickstarter continues for one more week, so
Yes.
get in there and make your pledge. Do you have any final words? I was going to say any final words
Uh,
before them.
no, I don't. I think you summed it out well. And if you have any more further questions that we didn't get to here, of course, I'll try to. I try to answer everything I can in the comments field. So get in there, and we'll hopefully sort any questions out. And yeah, just spread the word, and let's make the final week, great.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you, chat. I
Thank
am
you, everybody.
gonna cue all of you out, and then we'll see here if I can. Oh, there it is. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.